All right, I am here with Paul from Boss Shad. We got an exclusive announcement tonight. Paul had reached out to me. He's got something he wants to tell everybody, and I'm super stoked that he thought of me and our channel and our audience. Paul's somebody that I met at Odyssey last year, and similar to this past show that I just come out of Milwaukee, it is so hard to find very much time in a show weekend to actually sit down and talk. So unfortunately, Paul and I didn't get a lot of time to talk. But hopefully, when he's back up here on Cedar Lake one of these summers, we'll have a chance to connect a little bit better, Paul. But welcome
Thank
to
you.
54 Bust. And we're going to get right into it. I know you got something really cool cooking.
First timer.
Well, this is awesome. I'm glad to have you. So, Paul, take it away. I know this is a really cool announcement for you.
Yeah, so we just acquired Go-To Baits, the hybrids, out of PA. So we're gonna be doing those and running with them. Been working with Rob, getting everything down pat, and we're gonna go into full production with these. So yeah, we're excited. We're in the rubber game now.
So I'm just showing a few pictures here that you did send to me. And I know you have some on hand with you there. So we're going to
Yeah.
show everybody that.
So
You can
this is
kind of, yeah, show a few of those there.
That's the big one. And it's going to come standard with all these the tentacle tails, but we're going to sell probably 4 more different attachments to this. So this is the big one. Then we got the medium one, and the one I'm really excited about is the small one. So these baits are probably you could do so much with these things. You could jig them. They fall really fast. You could straight retrieve them. And with the different attachments, there's no other bait like it with the different attachments. And it's simple as a keeper and a split ring. And we'll have them, you could buy the optional spinner blade on the back, like a teaser. We're going to incorporate a single blade and a 2-blader. I think you have the picture right there. Yeah. One. And then we're going to sell different color skirts separately, different tails. I got a couple tails here. Here's a single tail right there. That goes on.
So can you show a close-up of how that attaches?
There's I don't know where my camera is. You just put the split ring right there.
Yeah.
You could use this in between the skirt. There's a picture of one I gave you like that.
Yep.
Or you could just make it, you could take that skirt off, put it separate. They came out with a quad tail.
I like that. How does that skirt attach? Does it just pop on the body? Like, does it just slide over the body?
No, there's at the end of the body is the almost like a hook hanger.
Yep.
And there's a hole in everything, and you push that into the hole, and then you spread out all these here, and you put the keeper in the split ring, and that's how it holds on.
Nice. So it's easy to do in the boat, on the water.
Yeah. If you have a pair of split rings, you could change tails. We're coming out with a paddle tail too for it.
Nice.
And I want to do a dual tail. We're going to work on that a little bit later. We're just trying to get our bearings here. And I'm trying to make everything, all the harnesses the same. We're just trying to streamline it and get it working better than before.
So the one question, and when you reached out to me, I didn't get a chance to ask you, but I know you had kind of told me, what was the thinking behind buying another bait company or adding a line of baits to Boss Shad?
Well, I've been selling baits for a long time, and with the economy And with people having so many of my baits, yeah, you could see sales going down a little bit. I have people come up to me at the show and saying, they're beautiful, Paul. I love your new colors, but I just have so many of your baits now. And what am I going to say? I can't blame them. I still have my original baits from '09 that I still run. So I've been wanting to get in the rubber game, especially with how popular, the forward facing sonars is. And this would be the bait because this thing goes down like a boulder. They're real top heavy. That's what makes them unique. So we're going to tackle that part of the sport. And then anybody that likes throwing rubber, I mean, this has really big fish already on it in some really hard areas.
Nice.
So I gave you some pictures.
Yep, I'll put them back up here
Yeah.
as I ask a few more questions. And you said this was out of Pennsylvania, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so for
Yeah.
me, it is definitely something new. Is this something that a lot of the muskie range has seen, or has this been a little bit of a localized bait to the Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia area?
No, we got people using them on Eagle Lake, Lake Nipissing, French River, Georgian Bay. Got a couple people using them at the St. Lawrence. Obviously, they've taken some nice New York, Ohio, and PA fish already. This company's been, don't quote me on this, I think this is his third or fourth year, but they only did it as a hobby, right? I mean, they weren't in any stores. They didn't have a website. They'd only done maybe 3 or 4 shows in those, 3 or 4 years. So now we'll be able to get them to the masses.
Nice. So this picture I have on screen here, Paul, can see on the right-hand side, the one has a little trailer blade.
Yep.
And then the next one in, it has a tail
Yep.
inside of that kind of tentacle. So obviously that's that modular style that you were just showing us where you
Yeah.
can interchange some stuff. Yeah, I like that idea. We have so many tinkerers that like to mess with baits these days.
And if you want to make up your own rubber, whatever, you can clip it on the back of this. Like I said, it comes with a rubber keeper and a split ring, and you're good to go. So anybody could play around with it, And
so just to cut in here, so this one here, that looks like a different style of tail in there with that little trident kind of end on it. Obviously, you guys could probably make almost anything you want. Are you guys going to be pouring these in-house, Paul?
Yes.
So you guys will be doing your own custom colors,
Yep.
et cetera, et cetera?
Yep.
Cool.
Now, I do want to state that me purchasing the hybrids, I am not purchasing his trident.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want nothing to do with the trident. So it's just the 3 size hybrids.
Nice. Now, is there different size heads? I think in this picture here, the one in the middle looks like a slightly smaller head.
Yeah, like I said, there's small.
Yep.
Here's the small, and then here's a medium, and then here's the large.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, like up in my area, the large is probably going to be the most popular. Just the Eagle Lake area and Cedar Lake. Like right as soon as you sent me those pictures, I was like, oh yeah, there's some spots I would like to try these. But having the different sizes, that's certainly key. Now, will all the attachments fit each size? Or are there attachments for each size separately?
All the small own the bit large and the medium. You can go back and forth on.
Okay.
And then our skirts are going to be 2 different sizes also. So if you want a longer skirt on the medium, you can put it on. If you want the shorter skirt on the large, you can put it on. It's whatever you feel confident on,
All right. I see Adam has a question here about weight. Do you have the weights of each size of the head, Paul, handy?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
That's one of the things, guys. excuse me, are going to want to know.
Yeah,
And
I don't know the exact weights now, unless you want me to go grab the scale real quick.
yeah, go ahead. Let's
All
do
right,
that right
hold on.
on there. And while Paul grabs the scale, which is cool because I like the fact that Adam asked that question because that is something that guys are going to want to know. They're going to
Now,
want to know.
now this is without hooks, of course.
Yeah, well, that's all going to change, but it'll
Yeah.
give people a baseline.
So the large is 9.8 ounces.
All right, that's with a tail
That's
with
with the
that.
tentacle tail.
Okay,
The medium, it weighs in at 6.7. And I don't have the tail for this yet, but just the body alone is 4.1 on the
okay.
small one.
So there's definitely a dramatic change between each weight, which is nice because there's times where going to like a bulldog, guys are like, hey, they're so similar between like the pit bull last year and either a mag or a reg dog, but you always find a sweet spot on what
Yeah.
guys want to do.
Well,
So
I could tell you that a lot of the guys that've been using these, we'll say at Chautauqua, they've been fishing that real deep 15 to 18-foot break with really good results the last few years there. And it's because all the weight is forward on these baits. These baits, they dive super head down fast, and then you work them up. So, like
oh,
you were talking about the Shield Lakes, I'd be throwing the medium. Just it's still big,
mhm.
but you know you don't want to get into the rocks with it, obviously. So
No, and I think for somebody that's newer to Shield Lakes, that's probably going to be the most versatile. For somebody like myself, where you guys stay on Cedar, just think some of those big reefs that are right out in front of camp, we know them
yeah,
pretty well. We got a map. Like I think that like that heavier one to like just kind of count that down or rip that down off those
yeah,
edges. That's the kind
hmm
of fishing that we like to do. So that to me, it's just gonna fall right in line with like a type of bait that's
yeah.
really gonna excel up on our deeper Shield lakes. So yeah,
And
when I
then
seen them, I was pretty excited for you.
the bigger the blade you put on the back, the slower it falls. Also,
Yeah, so
so
just to touch on that quick, that's something that I don't think a lot of people know. When you add a blade to a tube, just think like a standard Red October
uh
tube,
huh,
and we add a lot of blades to it. It's not always about just the flash; it's about slowing that fall
yeah,
down, and I think that does get missed. So I'm glad you brought that up because
yeah,
that's really important. I think a lot of newcomers or people that don't have a ton of experience, they just think it's about flash and about attraction, but
hmm
it is about more than that. And same thing with adding external weight. It's not always about just a fast drop, but it's controlling the drop as well as how fast that's going to pull up.
yeah.
So there's little things there that always seem to make a difference. So
Yeah, we're gonna have for sale like all the different style blades, size blades, um, different colors, and also I wanted to mention that I shortened up the wire only because I talked to a few people and they were biting the the spinner and not grabbing the bait. So we shortened that wire up to about an inch. Here's another medium, but it's really long. So
okay,
we're gonna put it to about here.
okay.
Or well, right here, with the skirt down. So
So the tinker in me is looking at that. Just hold that straight up again, Paul. I would already think that right where your finger is now, I would add another hook right there with a
yeah,
trailer blade
you could do that.
just because it gives you that ability on any of those fish that are short nipping. So already I can see there's a ton of possibilities. Guys are going to
Yeah,
tinker with something like that. And I love the modular idea of it. So I think you guys are onto something there. So I do think that's going to be a really cool
yeah.
addition to the Boss Shad name. When are these going to be available and what are you going to come out with initially, color-wise, pattern-wise?
Okay, that's a good question. We're gonna debut them at the Muskie Backs, March 1st and 2nd. I don't know how. I lost my day, so it looks like I only have about a week.
Oh,
Up all the crane by Friday. So I'm trying to get at least 30 done minimum of all the different sizes. And we're just gonna keep basic colors for now. Walleye with the white belly, maybe walleye with an orange belly and with the different tails. Black. We're gonna do this one called Christmas Lager that's supposed to be real popular. I would like to do a like a clear with the blue hue, like a
yep,
crappie or
yep.
a shad.
Like
I
a
like to do
shad,
one
Cisco, yep.
white, of course.
So this pattern right here, Paul, I'll just make my screen a touch bigger, was one of the kingpins you sent me. That's like a Cisco-ish whitefish pattern. That is just such a great pattern up on our clearest
Yeah,
shield lakes.
we could do something like that. I got some Rob gave me so much metallic and glitter and all, just I have like bins and bins of it. So that would be cool. Do like a silver side with a blue back would be cool.
Yeah, I see Adam's asking will to drop the link for these baits, but they're going to be on bossshad.com eventually.
Yeah.
I'm guessing not right away.
No, after the show, I'll start putting them on my website. And then it looks like Team Rhino is going to start carrying them also.
Nice.
So I just talked to Jeff today. So I got to get him a color list. I'm not looking to paint any of these for a while.
Yeah.
I just can't. I'm not going to jump into that just yet. So.
Well, that definitely sounds interesting. I know I'm going to try and see if I can weasel my way into a couple of these baits to make them up my way.
Of course.
Which will be cool. And I know our audience will appreciate it when we get them and we pass along some underwater footage and some testing. And we'll talk about these a little bit more, but I do want to talk about some of your other Boss Shad stuff, because going back to the idea that this was a made in Pennsylvania bait and it's a little bit regional. Sometimes it takes a bit of time for these things to kind of slowly grow and make it to other areas. This is going to be really cool to see this at a Team Rhino, and guaranteed that's going to open up your distribution right off the get-go there. So we will start to see some of these, up in my area. And I know you had reached out to my wife about possibly getting some Boss Shad stuff in her shop, and we'll work on that behind the scenes. And that's another thing of once the demand for it builds, you almost have to start bringing in that kind of stuff. And I do think that adding this to your lineup is going to bring that for Boss Shad. It'll take it from just being, just your normal crankbaits to, a multi-dimensional thing. Was that always the thinking behind it, Paul?
Well, I got 11 models of crankbaits, right? So I've been wanting to do a rubber bait for probably a year. I've been tinkering and, talking to people and buying stuff and making stuff. And like I said, when I found out this company was for sale, it was just a no-brainer for me. It's already a proven bait, and I know him, and I'm only an hour from him, so he's on 24-hour call. With questions and stuff. I got to revamp a couple things. I'm not changing anything that he did because they already work, but just to clean some stuff up and make everything exactly the same. Is mainly the wire harnesses. I need to work on making those all the same. So,
I do
in due time. This is only a few days old, so
I do know the wire harnesses when John from Lake X started making the toads, and we were down at John's garage one year, and John and Jake were we're heating up plastisol, pouring custom color toads in his garage, drinking beer, eating pizzas. And early on, he said that's something they struggled with, was making sure the harnesses were all the same and you didn't have to do much tuning. It didn't take them very long to get that streamlined. So I can see where you're coming from
Yeah.
there.
Well, that's an
But
important. It's a kind of important, you know.
well, it is.
So
And it must be nice to know that you have some help just a phone call away,
mhm.
where I think if you were to just buy something like that cold turkey and you're learning as you go, it's easy to make mistakes sometimes
Yeah,
and get caught up in it. So I think that's really good. That should really expedite the learning
yeah,
curve on some of it.
yeah. I spent a lot of time over there, you know, and got the gist of. Like I said, I've poured plastics before, so I kind of knew that part of it. It's the whole harness and lead molds, and when you're stacking different colors,
Mhm.
you have to know when you could do that and when not to do it, and there's a lot to it.
Yep. So
But
let
I
me
got,
ask you another question about pouring plastics. Are you going to start pouring your own tails for your kingpins?
you know, they're so cheap. I
Hardly worth
probably,
it.
yeah, because then those are injected, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna. I probably won't do that. I'll
Don't
probably just
mess
buy 'em.
don't mess with something that's working.
Yeah, I mean, I could buy like a 15-pound bag for $30, right?
Yeah. No, that
So
makes sense. I just thought
yeah.
it would give you the ability to try a couple different things.
Hmm.
Now, I do want to ask the question, what's the price point on
Oh,
these?
well, they were selling them for 40 for the large, 35 for the medium, and 25 for the small.
So that's ballpark right where
Yeah,
that style of bait is.
I haven't really thought about it yet too much, but that's going to be the ballpark. And then I'll probably sell the single tails for a few dollars, the spinners, the wire, the split ring, the blade, and the swivel, and the packaging. That might be a $3, $4.
Mhm. No,
So
that puts it right in
yeah,
line with all the other plastics in that kind of market. So
again, we want everybody to use them. We got to be competitive.
yep.
So
And I think that's something that the Boss Shad line is price wise. I think you're
yeah,
very competitive, especially when you go up against some of that boutique style of stuff,
yeah,
which I consider your stuff pretty much borderline boutique as it is. So your
yeah.
prices are really reasonable.
Yeah, a lot of people say I should raise them, but I got into this where I wanted to be in everybody's tackle box. I started doing this pre-internet and all that, and message boards, and I believe it or not, I tell people this all the time. I I wanted my business to be like Dale Wiley's business. That's what kind of how I modeled it.
Well, that's a good segue into a little bit of the history of Boss Shad because I would say that you do have a bit of that reputation as the guys that are in the know really know Boss Shad, and the ones that haven't tried them or don't know about it, sometimes it's not front and center of mind. Like you have that really tight following.
Hmm.
And again, going back to that regional thing, when I look at like your 8 inch, this is your 8 inch minnow here, it's it's a nice sized crankbait for Northwestern Ontario. And yeah, trolling, that's okay. But I would say that most of the guys that troll up on Eagle, they want a bigger bait than this.
Yep.
But there's a time and place for everything. So maybe give us a little history of Boss Shad and how you started it and why you started it.
Ooh, we got a lot of time.
Better pour another drink there. But no, just give us a little bit of the version of it.
I'll make the
And
long story long. How's that?
okay.
Well, when I first got into muskie fishing, yeah, I could count on my two hands how many trolling crankbaits there were. And the guys in Ohio only used, I mean, the most popular was a Bagley Monster Shad. So, we were always fixing those things up and, coating them and pinning the lips. And one day I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try to build this thing, build something like that. And I started fooling around with it, and I said to myself, I'm going to get a bait company going. And I think I worked in the garage after work for like 2 weeks, and I'm like, screw this, I ain't doing this. That was way too much work. So I started. There was no custom painters at the time, and all my friends and people that they knew, I'd come home and there'd be like boxes of baits sitting there to like redo and repaint. So I just kind of started doing that, and I started dabbling a little bit for myself. I didn't sell anything. I just was making them for myself and using them, and you know, that was for a few years. So one day, when Tough Shed went to plastic, I said, this is my time to go in, because I knew there was going to be a lot of people upset at first. Obviously, he proved it wrong because they worked great plastic. But when he went to wood, or when he went to plastic, I said, okay, I'm going. I'm starting. So I started, and I think I made, I don't know, maybe 8 baits. And I went out to one of our local lakes with Kevin Goldberg, and there was a lot of fishermen there that day, and we ended up catching like 10 fish that day on them. And at that time, a 10 fish day was pretty big. So when I got to the dock, there was like 5 guys waiting to see this and order them. I mean, I wasn't even ready for what was to become. So I took the orders. I was all happy. My head was big, and I'm like, all right. So it would take 2 weeks to make like 22 baits. 2 weeks. I had such minimal equipment, right? And then as time went on, the people, certain people I talked to that were in production, they're like, you need jigs, you need to take the time and make jigs, and so everything's the same. And I don't know, next thing you know, it just happened. It didn't take long. Plus, I always tell everybody it didn't take long because I had the right people in my corner.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that
my friends that I'm friends with are the best fishermen out this way, and when they use stuff and it worked, then other people wanted to use it. So when I came out, my prices were $25 on my 4.5, and I remember some of the old guys, they were like, that's way too much money. And I go, well, if you think I'm working all day at the collision shop and I'm going to come home and do this for nothing, you got another thing coming. Well, it's ironic because they were getting their asses kicked and they had to buy them. So that's, we started winning tournaments with them, and more people got them. And I remember doing my first show. I used to bring like 500 baits to a show and nearly sell out. I was like years of doing that. And then eventually I came out with all the other models, just to keep going. And then 7 years ago, I went full time with it. So.
Well, when you name drop Kevin Goldberg and you guys are catching fish on it, pretty much the muskie world right there is like, yeah, you had me at hello. The guy's a hammer. There's no question. He's somebody that I want to reach out to, have on the channel here.
Yep.
And I would like to actually just record with him next year up on Cedar when they stay up at Wade and Tracy's at Cedar Lake Lodge in October. I want to go up there when they're staying there, and we'll have a dinner and some drinks with them. And I'd like to record with them because I think he brings such a wealth of knowledge from so many different areas. And he's probably one of the people that introduced me to your baits just by watching some of his stuff. So yeah, I can see when you got guys like that in your corner, you're destined to win for sure.
I had all the great PA guys, some of the best PA fishermen are friends of mine also. So, that was easy. And then like New York is kind of, if you're from Ohio or PA, you're fishing New York because we're so close.
Yep.
So, and then eventually it got farther and farther out, Illinois, Indiana, they were great in Kentucky and West Virginia. So that, you're right, the whole east side, we'll say Midwest.
So what did it take for them to start catching into, say, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and then ultimately, some of the guys that were using them up in Canada? Like, what was that time frame like after that initial kind of success?
Oh, it was years to get to Wisconsin, and Team Rhino is kind of what helped me get to Wisconsin, because a lot of Wisconsin guys don't troll still. So,
Hmm.
and I mean, it's a trolling bait. Yeah, you can cast them, but it's for trolling,
Yeah.
Um, Minnesota, I gave them to a few guys up there. I gave one 12-inch minnow to a guy that got a 55 on it and a really big 48. So, I mean, those kind of states, it's slow. Headlock's got it pretty locked up there.
Yeah, Duff's baits are definitely
Yeah,
popular. We do really well on Duff's baits too.
yeah,
The 10 and 12 inch, like it's a bigger profile bait than this, right? But
yeah.
we're not great trollers. Like Dave and I, we know that we're trying to get
Hmm.
better with our trolling game every year. And there's a lot of times in the summer up here when we get that first cold front in August. And I think you guys have a bit of a tough week up here last year when you and Kevin were up the first time, did you
July,
not?
yeah, we went in July. Yeah, the watering was like, it was like 80 some degrees.
Yeah. So a
We seen
lot.
a lot of big fish. I caught some nice fish that trip, but it was tough.
Yeah, it was a weird year up here, but
Yeah.
there's times up here when you can get that really warm weather and you get that warm water and the fish push down a little bit deeper.
Hmm.
And we haven't resorted to trolling then, we probably should. And then the
Hmm.
other time is when you get those early August cold fronts, and it sometimes will push the fish shallow, and other times it pushes them just off that second break. And
Yeah,
we have had a lot of success trolling. And I've told the story many times that we had a day where we fished all morning. We didn't raise a single fish on all our known good spots.
that's when
We
you
were
should
just
have trolled.
and we decided we're gonna go to our buddy Steve's, pull the boat, go to Steve's, and have a couple beers. I opened up the cooler, and there was a couple slices of pizza. I'm like, let's just throw in some trolling baits, and we'll have a slice of pizza. And we got 4 fish in 45 minutes trolling.
Yeah,
So we learned that day that just because the fish aren't responding to casting, or you're not even seeing them,
yeah,
it's worth trying something.
yeah,
And so many guys up in northwestern Ontario are afraid to troll, against trolling. There's a number of reasons,
yeah.
but we've done it enough now to know that it works. And it's just for us, we have to get our systems a little bit better and start to understand it a bit more. And
Hmm.
talking with guys like you, and I talked with Zach Baker at the Milwaukee show. He's another guy that's got a ton of trolling
Yeah,
experience. I want to learn, and I want to try and get our viewers to learn, through guys like you. So tonight won't be the night that we're going to
yeah.
deep dive into trolling, but we'll have you on again, Paul, because I do really want to pick your brain on
Yeah,
trolling some of these
yeah.
smaller
This,
baits, because I think it's very valuable information.
yeah, troll. If you're dead set on casting and it's not happening, troll from spot to spot and see.
Yeah.
That'll that'll tell you. But yeah, trolling's all that's a whole different conversation for sure.
Yeah, it is. So,
And it's not easy as people think. You put
n-
6 lines out and troll and turn and have everything perfectly tuned, and there's a depth of each bait and knowing where to put the deep lines at. There's a lot to it. I
see
have
that.
notes. I have stacks of notes of every bait of what line lengths to depths there are. So when I'm out there fishing and I'm running, 6 lines, 3 apiece in Ohio and PA and New York, you got to know, where to put those baits or you're going to be in a world of hurt.
I I don't envy you guys because we can only troll one line.
Yeah.
But I just see Adam Mueller from Top Line Baits just jumped on. Let's kind of go back to the beginning of this conversation and kind of show everybody what the big news is, because people are coming and going at different points on this, Paul. I think it's
Okay.
worth kind of showing and just tell some of the people that just jumped on what it is that you guys just acquired.
Well, Boss Shad acquired the Go-To Bait Company, and we're taking over the hybrids. 3-size hybrids, all different kind of tails attachments that you can put on them. So we're gonna be doing that now.
Yeah. So basically, right off the top of our conversation, Paul showed us all the different size of baits and different attachments that you'll have. And I think that's a great addition to Boss Shad. And I think it'll give guys a completely different option from, your standard cornerstone companies that do rubber already. And I think there's always room for some more rubber in the musky world. I mean, who doesn't like rubber? We make a living out of tossing that stuff lately, it seems like. So
Yeah,
I'm really excited for this, and really excited for you guys.
yeah, we're excited
I
too.
think it's great.
Yeah, it's I'm looking forward to getting the full production.
So just a quick backstory there. When Paul reached out to me, he didn't tell me exactly what it was because he was keeping this a little bit hush hush. But I needed the pictures a few days early so I could prep for our live tonight. And when I seen the pictures, it literally almost stopped me dead in my tracks, because it's not at all what I was expecting. Like, I was
No,
expecting that you bought another crankbait company or whatever, or a
yeah,
dive and rise or something that falls right in line with what you make. So when I
yeah,
did see it, I was like, hey, that's really cool. And like Adam just says here, he's like, "Attaboy, Paul, that's some big news." And Adam's one of the good guys. I
oh
really like
yeah,
Adam.
me
Adam's
too.
so much fun.
Yeah,
And I could see Adam doing something like this, because he's got one of those mad scientist minds.
uh-huh,
Like most of you bait builders, you're always 3 steps ahead of everybody, and you never know what's going on. So
yeah.
I do think that that's great news, and I think it'll fit right in. What's your priority going to be into the summer, Paul? Obviously, there's going to be some demand here. Like, already I can see guys are like, yeah, I need this, I need this, I need this. How are you going to kind of manage the demand on this?
I have no idea.
That's an honest guy right there. I
I
like
have
that.
no idea. Well, my usually my stores are pretty packed with my crankbaits. I sell the Raleigh and Helens, Team Rhino, a couple small bait shops by me, my website. I always have baits on hand, you know, but we'll see where this goes. I've been told that I've been told by a few people that eventually I won't want to touch another piece of wood. So we'll see. I
That-
can't let my baby go,
I
but
was gonna say that sounds like fighting words right there. So we'll
yeah,
see if that actually holds true.
we'll
But
see what happens.
I think
We'll
it'll
see
be
what happens.
interesting summer for you guys. It'll be fun to kind of watch from the outside. I certainly, I'll look forward to getting a couple to
Yeah,
try, and it'll be fun to just kind of touch base with you a few times over the year to
yeah,
see
yeah,
where things are going. And I do think it would be super beneficial to have you back on, and we'll do a trolling, kind of a master class trolling on all your baits, because I think some of your smaller baits, obviously the Pennsylvania guys, the Ohio guys, they
yeah.
love that smaller bait.
That's the bread and butter. But I would have to say real quick is Kevin put the 12-inch minnow and the 10-inch minnow on the map with some of his giant catches from out your way. I'm not mentioning no lakes,
Yeah.
but every year since he's been going, he sends me some really outstanding pictures. It's kind of crazy how good they work out there, and people know about it. Oh, and they've caught some big ass fish in on the French River too. But
That's a place that's on my bucket list,
yeah,
is to get down to the French. Um, when Kevin and Rena were doing some of the videos from, like, I think it was like 12, 13, 14, 15, those are some of the videos that I watched and it got me excited to go to Cedar 20 minutes away. I'm just like they were catching fish, and we've caught a lot of big fish up there. Like
Yeah.
we've done well, but to see them go up there and have that kind of success year in and year out, and trolling, casting, they do it all. That's just a testament to them, obviously, but using the right kind of gear, because there is a lot of people that come up to lakes like Cedar and Eagle and they struggle because they are not using the right gear. So it
Mhm.
definitely makes a difference. And you've been up here, you know what it's like.
Yeah. I wish I lived there.
I do
I
too,
told
because I'd have a few more Boss Shads here.
I told my wife, I go, if I was 20 again, well, we would have never met. She goes, why is that? I go, because if I knew what I knew now, I would have moved right up to International Falls in Minnesota. No doubt. No doubt I would have moved up there. Now I'm old and now I'm going,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Well, it I'm not gonna lie, it's a great area to live, and
yeah.
we're super fortunate, and it's not lost on us that we have all this amazing trophy water around us, and it's sometimes it's hard to know where to go to fish because you're
Yeah.
leaving one lake to go to another lake to catch the same fish that you'd catch on this lake, but those are good problems to have. We don't have a ton of pressure up here. Cedar's probably the one that sees the most pressure, and if you're willing to kinda, play outside the lines there a little bit, there's still a lot of fish,
Oh, yeah.
and it just up here for us anyway at 54 a bust, it's always about trying something a little bit different. And I know when you sent me the Kingpin a couple of years ago, I did get it out. Didn't get a real big muskie on it, but the pike were hammering this thing like it was their last supper. And I don't know if it's just that little squirrely tail, but it's a style of bait that we have to use. And I know just using this 8-inch minnow as a crankbait, like just casting it, it's gonna get hit. It's just a matter of spending the time with it, and we see a lot of guys like Joe Bucher used to come up here and just hammer with crankbaits, Sarek. It's it's just one of those lost arts that guys up here just don't seem to go to right off the top. And can you just touch on that? Some of your baits as just pure casting crankbaits.
Well, obviously the Kingpin is what I made that for. But waiting the 8-inch minnow it was proven up there for us um, with good success. Now around here, I have I have a lot of guys that cast the little baby crying boss and the 4.5.
Yep.
I would say the rest are just more for trolling.
Yeah.
You know,
So
the 10-inch minnow you can cast, but I don't know. I wouldn't.
gets to be a handful. So you said waiting the 8-inch. Is that, did I hear you correct?
Yeah. I weighted yours for casting.
Yeah. So it
But
has internal weights in it.
yeah, I normally don't weight the 8-inch minnow.
Okay.
So
Cool.
yeah,
Interesting. Well,
yeah.
that's interesting.
But the Kingpin has been. We got some nice fish on it out up there last year. The Kingpin. So
Well, that's good. That's good to
yeah.
know. I'll have to pick your brain a little bit off
And
air here.
that stupid little bait gets super deep if you hog on it. And
Yes,
what's
it
cool is
does.
if you just stop, it just stays there. You know, we that thing's pulled a lot of fish to the boat.
So when you did send it, and when this video just gets posted to YouTube, I'll put a link in the description below. I did do a quick underwater run with this, but because it was late in the year, we couldn't really give it that hard pull
yeah,
to get depth just because it was shallow, but it's got a lot of life to it, a lot of movement. And you're right. This
well,
one,
the video made it look like just a regular crankbait, but yeah, you're right.
yeah.
If you twitch it and let it sit, it'll shimmy and the tail will start going.
Yeah. So this one here, I don't know if the viewers will be able to see, but like this bill is already beat up pretty good from smashing the rocks. So I use this on Cedar, Peralt, and one other lake that I'm not going to mention. And this thing was routinely getting down in that 8 to 10 foot range when
Yeah.
we're hammering it right off the cast. And yeah, you're right. The nice thing about it is you could hammer the rocks and just let it kind of flutter right there. So it's an interesting bait. I think that as more guys on shield lakes start to look to a bait like that, I think you'll
Mhm.
see a lot more success with it.
And what's cool about that bait is I have some guys that reel it down real quick and just let it float up real slow and then reel it down real quick so you're not killing yourself jerking that thing, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So there's a couple ways you could fish it depending on what you want, you know. So
That's interesting. And again, that goes to talking to the bait builder and getting some different ideas, because you're right. If you're just going to just pull and crank in on some of these crankbaits, they can beat you up, especially some of the
yeah,
bigger ones, and like the ridgeways that we use. When you're doing that for an hour, you're feeling it. Like
yeah,
you gotta know what you're doing with them.
yeah.
So that's really interesting. I think we'll kind of cap it off there for tonight, Paul. The
All
big
right.
news was all about the rubber. Let's just recap that one more time. I'll show the pictures, tell the guys what it is you guys got going on, and
Okay.
give us an idea again of when these are going to be up on your website.
All right. So Boss Shad acquired go-to baits, but just the hybrids, 3 sizes. We're gonna sell all the different tail attachments, spinner attachments. They're gonna debut on March 1st and 2nd at the Max in PA, and then after that, we're gonna start loading up the website on them. And real soon, Team Rhino will have them.
Nice.
So by fishing season, we should have a pretty good stockpile.
That sounds exciting. Like I said, I'm excited for you guys, and I know you'll be doing a little bit of stuff on social media. And Jeff does a great job with Team Rhino. As soon as he gets these in stock, I'm sure they'll have them on their website, and he'll do a little social media push for them too. So that'll help. And I'll do anything I can to help you guys, Paul. You know that. And
Yep, yep,
whenever I do get some in my hands, we're months away from open water
yeah,
up here. But I do want to say that for our viewers, as soon as I get them, we'll get them in the water. We'll give you guys our first reactions, and then we'll do a proper video and test of them as soon as we can come springtime. But awesome stuff. I
yep.
appreciate you thinking of
Thank you.
54 or bust to do this, and I just wish you awesome success with this. I think this is a great acquisition for you guys.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys, that'll be it for tonight. Just say thank you to Paul and thank you to all the viewers. So look for this stuff to come out real soon. Have a great show at Max. It's going to be really exciting to hear the stories from you after Max on what the demand was for this. I think this is going to be really fun.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Glenn.
All right, guys, take care.